A good and simple unintentional indication for me that a show is great is when the ending of an episode comes unexpectedly. I'm watching and suddenly the end screen pops up. That's how it has been for me throughout most of the Beastars. Most of it, and I'll get to the other part later. I've been putting Beastars on hold for a couple of months, even though it has been recommended to me a few times and it also became a Twitter sensation. Truth to be told, I'm not a fan of fully CG anime, it's just not an aesthetic I find interesting, shocking I know, and that was a primary reason I steered away from it. The other reason being the whole furry appearance, which, yeah, still not my cup of tea, but I'm developing a taste for it. Okay, I'm not really, I felt weird assisting at those almost sex scenes, but other than that, it's pretty cool. The show is not for furries. Why not? The show is for everyone. It has mystery, drama, romance, interesting world building, fantastic characters, some cool fights and some not so cool fights. A little bit of everything. In Beastars we're introduced to an already well-established anthropomorphic world, where carnivores and herbivores would seem to coexist in peace, although it's personal relationships that merely maintain their fragile peace. And when that's broken, someone ends up in a not so comfortable situation, which is what intensifies the conflict between these two races from Cherrytown High School when a herbivore student gets eaten. Turns out the murderer was a good friend, with our main character, Legosi, who takes it upon himself to seek answers and find the murderer. Or that's going to happen in the second season. For now it's just sort of in the background meant to maintain a sense of mystique, while we learn about this incredible world following this interesting and endearing good boy. The world is real, living and breathing, fully developed, as every question we may have has already been answered. We just need to discover it. We're given the basics to carry us through the story, such as eating meat is forbidden, but for those who cannot control their cravings there is the illegal but kind of legal black market. Birds who want to fly need a license. Chickens sell their eggs for money. The mayor is corrupted. Oh, oops. Usually I'm not an enthusiast for exposition, but I would definitely be open to learn more about this beautiful world of Beastars. The world is truly compelling, I swear I'm not exaggerating one bit. But what's even more compelling is this charming cast of characters, each with their own complex and shallow sides, inner and outer personalities, facing many struggles and dealing with their own issues. Our main character, Legosi, contrasted to his imposing appearance, is a really nice guy that doesn't want any conflict. He's very conscious of his own presence and often does what he can do to downplay himself. He contains and avoids displaying his strength unless he's left no choice and is required to act. We learn more about Legosi while he learns about himself. We discover new sides of him that he wasn't even aware of, and that creates a genuine honest connection between the viewer and Legosi. His constant battles with his predatory instincts are far more interesting to see unfold as I've ever thought they would. Haru the rabbit, who has the Marilyn Monroe syndrome, that's her being a hoe, endlessly fights, well, literally for her life, and also the pressure that nature placed on her. She's been treated and socialized as weak, cute female prey in a species thought of promiscuous already. And all things considered, she's an insanely realistic character that truly fits the world and story. Louis, apparently narcissistic and egoistic, dying to maintain his nearly flawless self-image, slips bits of insecurities which reveal his frustration of being born a weak herbivore. And once you learn the source of that frustration, he suddenly becomes quite endearing. Legosi and Louis can be seen as two sides of the same coin, both blindly wanting something they cannot attain while not appreciating what was given to them, wearing a mask and putting on an act they cannot sustain while the crude reality slowly cracks those masks away. They are further connected through a love triangle of sorts, which of course involves the rabbit, which at some point is kind of questionable and slightly creepy, but very natural. We get to see each love blossoms, understand what love means for each character and which one bears fruit, if it bears fruit, because the struggles that get in its way are many and are tough to deal with. Not just the regular drama of jealousy and trust, but social view and pressure, the natural instincts and cravings, fighting for a forbidden love between two species that couldn't be any more different from each other. That's one aspect that adds a sense of uniqueness to the show. Back to Legosi. What really makes Legosi so interesting to me is that he has conviction. If something opposes his principles, he's willing to break his tame appearance if it means he might change the situation. But that also sometimes makes him quite hypocritical, but heroic and a coward. Naive but also stubborn, hard-headed but impulsive but also patient, often demonstrating a high level of maturity. Point is, he has many realistic layers. Normally I wouldn't care about an anime character being realistic but rather believable in its own universe. However, Beastars doesn't exactly feel like an anime to me. It lacks typical anime tropes, anime humor, the cultural subtext, therefore feels more like a TV series of some sorts. Which may sound weird, but I think it makes Beastars stand out in the vast pool of guys with swords, and let's put as many characters as we can on the poster. Production. It is a fucking beautiful show. It oozes elegancy both in visuals and soundtrack, the scenery is spectacular, and I felt the characters' despair in those moments of anguish. To which I'm gonna stop right now and clap twice for Studio Orange. Now sometimes during more mundane movements, it looked like the animators might have skipped a few frames, which really damages the fluidity and makes the characters choppy and laggy. I don't know why they do that, but it's not that big of a deal overall, although it takes a bit to get used to it. What I really want to talk about is this scene right here. Once I saw it randomly on Twitter, it stuck with me and it was the last impulse I needed to watch the show. Now you may be watching and scratching your heads at this moment wondering what the actual fuck am I talking about, but I'm talking about details. These tiny and seemingly insignificant details. Have you guys seen someone getting bullied maybe in a movie or real life, and when the bully is forced to stop they tend to make one last gesture before they leave, such as this exact one? Well, Beastars is infatuated with these subtle details, and you can really see that in the body language of the characters. From their posture, which adjusts according to their mood, as you often see Legacy slouching when standing or sitting, to subtle and nuanced facial expressions that convey even the smallest change of emotion. The fact that what someone says, what they do and how they feel is accurately reflected in their body language makes them real. When the characters are talking to each other, it feels incredibly natural, like they're having a normal conversation and the microphone happens to be recording. For that reason, nothing is overacted, the voices don't feel modulated in any way, the delivery is breathy and genuine. How often do we hear someone's breath in anime voice performances? I don't think we do, and I never thought hearing it would make the voices sound so natural. If I'm being completely honest, which I am no doubt, it's been a good while since I've been so immersed into an anime that I hadn't even realized when an episode has ended. However, at some point, that immersion broke. I almost don't want to talk about anything negative after I've listened to Beastars OST. Incredibly massive spoilers ahead, I'm going to discuss the climax of the anime, so if you've not watched it, you should. One part I didn't quite enjoy and found rather unbelievable was the rescue mission from episode 10, when Legosi went head to head with a group of vicious lions. The show emphasizes a lot the differences in strength between the species, sometimes to a radical degree, such when Juno easily overpowered Louis. So to see Legosi, a young grey wolf, simply overpowering a bunch of adult lions feels a bit off, even with the support of this buffed badass panda who carried most of the weight. It's pushing it a bit too much. I couldn't get a proper emotion, so to say, out of that sequence. I initially felt Haru's despair. It's a terrifying feeling knowing that you can be eaten at any time, even more terrifying when the eater really likes to marinate his food. But knowing the inevitable Legosi will force his way to the top, eventually biting the old lion's throat or shoulder, vanished all the tension I could have felt. My suspension of disbelief went up to 11 throughout the entire episode. And I don't particularly enjoy when this happens, because while I know it's a work of fiction and some extraordinary things can occur, I still like it when a show stays true to its internal established rules and logic. A feared group of 35 vicious lions that scares everyone in the black market, which by the way is filled with predators, that also scare the mayor and by extension the authorities, somehow pose no real danger to a kid wolf and an old panda? What's so intimidating about a group of lions that can be overrun by a kid wolf and an old panda? Then there's Louis, who shows up with a gun, blows the boss's brains out, pretty cool and badass scene by the way, and then the remaining members of the mob come up and tell Louis to drop his weapon. Like, your whole headquarters has been under attack, several members are dead and others immobilized, and you're going to ask the guy who just murdered your boss in front of you to drop his weapon? At this point I don't have a suspension of disbelief anymore. The entire last quarter of the show turns on its own established rules. Like in episode 8, Haru tells Legosi that a carnivore can get arrested just by talking loudly to an herbivore, and definitely getting locked for a few years if they display their strength on a herbivore. We get confirmation during that scene from the train station, when an officer is aggressively chasing Legosi, and then episode 11 happens. A big grey wolf, stained with blood, walks with a half-naked rabbit in the middle of the night, they even have late-night dinner at a public place, and there's literally no reaction from anyone. I guess someone could argue that they went on a shadier street, but did they? I'm also not quite happy with the introduction of guns. I think it really weakens this aspect of carnivores being such a threat to herbivores. That uncontrollable and constant threat the herbivores felt isn't that big of a deal when you have a gun. Sure, we can assume it may not be easy to obtain a gun, but the fact that there are guns changes everything. What stops them from rebelling against the system? I'm going off track. The point is, the introduction of guns weakens the threat of carnivores. As a viewer, I lose that omnipresent fear and tension that a herbivore will never win against a carnivore. Episode 10 specifically really shattered my immersion. It felt random and failed to deliver on the drama and tension. There's also the fact that the show created this love triangle between Haru, Louis and Legosi, and we're shown that Haru feels very close to Louis. I wouldn't say love, but she definitely fancies him quite a bit. However, she doesn't seem to care that he went missing or isn't shown to care for him. The anime seems to forget Louis exists. None of the drama club members care their insanely influential leader is gone on the most important day of the year. Sanon, the drama teacher, or I think he's a teacher, mentions it in the most casual way possible, and then that's that. The school doesn't do much noise when the next supposedly Beastar is missing either. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I feel like the second half of the anime left a lot to be desired compared to the first half, which was absolutely beautiful. And that prevents me from giving it the "yeah, this was perfect" head nod. I'll admit, this sounds a bit pretentious, but it's probably because I really like it. I was surprised by how quickly it grew on me, and this is coming from a guy who doesn't like CG, doesn't like furry-looking characters, and did not enjoy Hoseki no Kuni. But Beastars is something else. It has a little bit of everything. And despite the negatives I mentioned, I don't think I enjoyed an anime as much as Beastars in almost 2 years. Point is that you should be watching Beastars.